Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the January 25th session. And we are honored today to have Minister Jim Wick of the Monterey Christian Church to lead us in prayer before we start.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bow, please. Heavenly Father, we stop at the beginning of this meeting to ask your blessings. Thank you for men and women that recognize the power of prayer. You said in your scripture that prayer of a righteous man availeth much. This morning we ask much. We bow our heads in reverence to you. We praise your holy name and give you all the glory, your blessings so far this year. Now as we meeting gets started, we ask wisdom to make correct and proper decisions for the betterment of Clermont County. We ask all this for safety in this meeting as we continue and pray it all through your Son, Jesus Christ. Your glory be for his name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Corcoran, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda is the approval of the regular session minutes of January 18th, 23. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I will second.
Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Parker. Yes. Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. And item C is a presentation by our county engineer, Jeremy Evans. Good morning.
So real quick, before we get started on this, we've been asking for updates on the track grant application related to the Glen Estee overpass. They were scheduled to meet today in Columbus. With members coming from all over the state, they decided to postpone. So next scheduled meeting is February 22nd. I don't know if they'll try to reconvene ahead of then, but hopefully by sometime next month we'll have an update. So we're here to talk today about the Filager campus improvement project. I want to give an update. I want to talk a little bit about our existing facility, just real quickly about some of the history there, and then obviously talk about what is proposed, give an update on where we've come so far. So there's some quick history of the project itself. You may remember in June of 21, the board authorized a request for qualifications. And in July of that year, we received 8 that we reviewed internally. We selected the top 3. And in September of 21, those 3 came in and gave presentations, had interviews. And in December of 21, authorized Garmin Miller. All of the top 3 had experience with these types of facilities. Garmin Miller stood out to me because they had recently completed some total facilities that were more on scale with what we're talking about, and so we'll kind of get into that. We were able to tour some of the facilities that they had designed or recently completed. I took some pictures for notes for myself, not necessarily for presentation, but we'll see some of those scattered throughout here in a little while as well. It was nice to be able to visit those ODOT facilities, get some feedback from them on their experiences, what they liked, what they didn't. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We also talked to some other county engineers, find out what they like about their facilities, so we're able to kind of hit the ground running. With the project kickoff meeting there, took place just about a year ago in January, and then by September had complete construction drawings submitted to the building department for review. Probably could have kept going with bullet points, because since then they've been submitting plan specs. There's 1,300 and something pages, whatever. So the project has progressed beyond there, but that was kind of a milestone worth noting to me. Pretty impressive from January to September, full set of construction drawings for what we're about to talk about. So quick overview of the existing campus. This is what I think of when I refer to the Filager campus. Excuse me, these numbered areas. So no particular order, but number 1 is our salt barn. It was constructed in 1986. It's a wooden structure, holds about 4,000 tons of salt. Building 2 is currently our highway ops facility. So that's where administrative offices are, ready room, people come and go from there on a daily basis. Three are our truck barns. Those were built 2 phases, 1968, 1988. You can probably see from the change in color on the roof line, the newer section, the older sections there. 2 building 4s. There's our kind of the permanent storage solutions that we have, and we'll talk more specifically about storage here in a little bit. But the one there in the middle of the site, number 4, is kind of the equivalent of a single car garage. It's a little extra deep, but that's about the scale there. The other building 4 on the south side was a 3-sided pole building. Both of those came in the 1960s based on aerial photos. That's what I was able to determine. That building on the south there used to have a roof until a couple of years ago. That roof ended up in the sheriff's backyard. So currently has no roof, but hopefully don't need it as we're progressing through this project. So number 5 is the highway mechanic space that our mechanic utilizes there at the end of the truck barns. 6 is the fueling station. I didn't put a date. There's been a fueling station for a long time, but it's been in this current configuration probably since the late 80s or 90s. Number 7 is the current fleet maintenance garage, built in 1958. So number 7 and number 2 were the original buildings on this campus. We'll talk more about that in a minute too, but that was originally built as a county engineer facility. It's what would have been what we would have called our highway ops building at the time. Building 8 is facilities and CTC. Was originally built as the county engineer's office when the county engineer moved from the courthouse to this campus. Number 9 is the CTC bus lot, which was created in 2011. Used to be where we stored our culverts and some of our materials. You can see we found room just north there, out of the way a little bit. Some of these buildings aren't included in this plan, so the facilities in the CTC at this time aren't included in what we're talking about moving forward. But I wanted to point out this campus at one time is now known as the Filager campus, was the county engineer campus. So things have changed. The buildings are still there, but functionally things have changed over time. Obviously, there have been over those decades different commissioners, different administrators, different county engineers, all with different ideas of what this should look like. So the campus that we just talked about started much like we're here today, or we'll be here back in February to talk about. 1958, commissioners met and authorized the engineer to proceed with plans for a new building on this campus. I had originally heard that it was 1948 that the campus started. I found an aerial photo from 1956. There was nothing there, just farm field. Was doing some road record research through the old commissioner's journals. Happened to see this at the top of one of the pages, caught my attention. So I just thought it was worth noting. It's been a few years, but we started this process for that site. So quickly, this is the back side of what is now the fleet garage. This picture was from the 1960s, not too long after that facility was first built. And again, that was kind of our highway operation facility at the time.
You still have some of those tractors, don't you?
No, unfortunately, they would probably get some good trading value. Other building that I had noted, currently our highway ops building, you can see the pictures on the left. Was originally built as a pole barn for our sign shop. So that's where we make signs, store materials. The pictures on the left are from the 80s and 90s. You can see the picture on the right as it exists today. If you look real close below the window, the picture on the right, you can see where that garage door used to be. The cutout is still there in the concrete. Just a real quick, we found this. I think Suki found this one. Looking through some old aerial photos, I had all kinds of pictures and aerials that I don't have time to go into today, but this was an interesting view, 1977, from a website called vintageaerial.com. You can see in the foreground, the field where the word aerial is where the jail sits today. Just off to the left of the screen with the sheriff's office. The old county home is there in the middle, which is now where municipal court sits. We take a closer look at the what we call the Filager campus. You see the engineer's office on the left, the fleet garage. The building there with the dark roof in the middle is the one that is missing a roof now. But then you can see the single car garage just above that, the sign shop behind that, the 2 truck barns. So other than the salt barn and the truck barns being lengthened, pretty much the way it looks today. So moving forward, talking about our proposed facility, I know this picture is hard to see at this scale. I did bring a printed copy for each of you if you need to look a little closer. But wanted to show this for two reasons. One, to show location. So we'll be across the street from the existing facility on 222. Also wanted to show this for just to get a sense of scale. So when we start talking about these individual buildings, you can see how they compare to what we have now. And if you look at the salt barn existing, which is at the top of the screen, it's on the kind of the northern side of the proposed site. You can see that those two footprints almost exactly the same from terms of square footage. If you look at our truck barn, which is the two red barns again, and then you look in the middle of the proposed site, the highway operations building, footprint again, pretty much the same. There's going to be, one enclosed space versus two three-sided barns. Excuse me. If you look at the fleet building, which is the white building over there on the existing campus, the white roof, and then you look at the south side of the proposed campus, again, mostly identical in terms of square feet. So total campus space that's affected, proposed covers about 7 acres, talking asphalt, gravel, and building. The existing for those same buildings and spaces, taking out the CTC facilities, we're looking at about 6 acres, so slightly larger. Building square footage, obviously quite a bit different. A lot of that is because of additional storage, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And then also obviously covering the center of that truck barn aisle, there's some square footage there that'll be under roof that isn't existing. So here's a closer look at the proposed site. Again, across 222 from existing facility. Main entrance would be opposite from municipal court. A couple of reasons. One, good sight distance there. Two, because there's a left turn lane into municipal court already, we'll have room for a left turn lane into the proposed site with very little shoulder widening required, so minimal road work to be able to accommodate that. Also would have a second entrance closer to the park district, again in a location where sight distance is optimal. Left half of the site, and we'll go specifically space by space here in a minute, but left half would be engineer facility. The right portion would be fleet garage and fuel station. I'll try to give an overview of all those things. I was not involved in the detailed discussions on the fleet side, but Wade, Greg, somebody, if you have questions on those, we have others that can answer specifics. So we'll start in the middle with what I would call the highway operations building. There are 4 components, and we'll go through those individually. The space that is highlighted in yellow would be our administration area. So this, again, is our existing building. Picture on the left half of that building is our sign shop, where we make signs, store materials. There are also a few offices on that side. The right half of the building is what's shown on the right side, what we call our ready room. This is where our guys come and go on a daily basis, where they come in to stage for snow events. There's also a small office you can see in the back, and then just to the left, off camera, is a small kitchenette and a bathroom. But this is the space that they use for everything, for meetings, for training, for entering timesheets. If we have a quick meeting, we can accommodate 40 people. Which is the number of employees we have down there. We can accommodate them in that space. If it's a longer meeting that requires, some training or discussion, we usually have to go to the fairgrounds, or we'll go to Clermont Center to our conference room, because we just don't have room in this space for 40 people to stage for a long time. On the proposed building space, on the left, you see some elevations. Basic metal building. We'll have a few more windows than we have today. Be some brick cladding around the bottom, just to have that space stand out from the rest of the metal building itself behind it. On the right-hand side, overview of the floor plan. The employee parking will come in on the left side. Public parking would be in front, and so they would come in through that middle door in the front. But if we start on the left, that first room is what we're calling the foreman room. It's really kind of it's going to be a workroom, I guess, if you want to call it that. We don't really have a space like that now, but a space where our foreman can leave reference materials, plans for future projects. We can do timesheets and have computers set up for some training. We'll have some work tables so they can lay plans out and have discussions with their crews. So it's kind of a workspace. Following across the middle, you can see the 6 tables with the chairs. That would be the new ready room space. Has room for all 40 employees. We'll be set up to be able to do some training in there. The small kitchenette is right off adjacent to that also. Moving across the middle, I know kind of hard to see at the scale, but we'll have a proper women's and men's locker room. We're no longer sharing just a couple of toilets to be, sufficient number for the number of employees that we have. Moving across that space, the large open area on the end would be the sign shop, where they would make signs again and be able to store those materials. That has access to the truck bays, so we can load and unload materials to the trucks directly. Across the top, 3 office spaces, a conference room, our entry space, and then a file room for some storage. You look like you have a question.
What kind of a barrier is between that sign shop and what goes on in there, the fumes coming?
So there shouldn't be fumes. The signs are made with a press, and then it's a vinyl cutter, vinyl printer. But it'll have its access, its main access will be from the truck barn. So there'll be doors there that'll be closed. Truck barn will be ventilated. So we can talk about that in a few minutes. It does have an access door just for convenience into the hallway space, but yeah.
The heat press, okay.
So if we go move into the largest space of the highway operations building is the truck garage. Again, similar footprint to the 2 barns that we have now, just will be enclosed. On the left, you can see our shot down to the drive aisle of our existing building. You can see that our trucks that we have today don't fit probably like the ones that we had in 1960s. And these buildings are old. They've been maintained. They've been patched. The patches have been patched. So they're just not very weather tight at the moment. We have 26 dump trucks at a cost of around $225,000 a piece. You can see our paint truck sitting there with some technical equipment. We have a bucket truck. We have a lot of equipment that would be nice to have undercover. Picture on the right, that came from the snowstorm that we had around Christmas time. That is a salt truck. The salt has frozen into the bed. So a lot of times we like to preload our trucks, back them into the barn so we're ready to hit the ground running when the storm comes. So much moisture in the air that day, happened to be so cold. About a third of our routes, the salt was frozen. So we had to chip those loose, refill them before we could head out. So just having a closed insulated space would have prevented that. It would be very helpful. On the proposed side, so on the left again is the elevation drawings. Large metal building, single drive aisle down the middle, so a door on each end, 2 doors total. The picture on the right came from one of those ODOT facilities that I mentioned. And again, I wasn't thinking presentation at the time. I was just taking some notes for myself, but pretty good representation of what we would be looking to do. Just a large concrete parking area covered, the ability to be heated to a nominal, 55 degrees to keep it comfortable, keep it above freezing. We'll talk a few minutes about alternate bids. And I want to point out while we're on this slide, just because there's an alternate bid item to shrink the truck barn a little bit by what we're calling 1 bay. And 1 bay is the space that you see between those structural ribs. That would cost or eliminate 4 parking spaces. So we'll discuss that in a few minutes, but I just wanted to bring that up while you have that visual. Our mechanic space is the 3rd space in the highway operations building. It would be out near the front. This is the existing space that our mechanic utilizes. On the left half is part storage. We have a single small bay in the middle. Right half, we have an office and some tool and part storage as well. On the front there, we have our pressure washer, compressor, some of those types of things. So proposed facility from the front, again, just a metal building, two garage doors, so 2 bays. The benefit to having 2 bays would be if you've got a piece of equipment that's undergoing some repairs, but you need to make some quick repairs to something else, you've got the space to be able to do that. If you're waiting on parts for the first one, obviously you still have a second bay you can utilize. The second bay would have a access door to the truck barn that we just talked about. So we have the ability to move equipment between or to pull through. So if we have equipment on a piece of equipment on a trailer, or trailer itself needs some maintenance, we'll be able to pull through, close the doors so we're still inside. Picture on the right, again, maybe not the best representation, but pretty much as you can imagine, metal building, concrete floors, well lit, well ventilated, office space, and part storage would be behind that photo. So across the top of our proposed facility would be parts, fluids, and a small office And then above that, to utilize the space, will be a mezzanine for more storage. Final component of the highway operations building is the truck wash. This is our existing truck wash on the left. We have a pressure washer at the end of the truck bays. We try to keep our equipment clean throughout the year. Obviously, really important after a round of snow removal, salt spreading. This picture, again, came from that December storm. It was a sunny day, but it had warmed up into about the mid-30s. So it is not the most comfortable place or project. We do rotate so everybody gets to have a turn experiencing that. On the right, though, is the proposed facility. So it's not a Mike's car wash. It's not fully automated. It's really just an enclosed space where the mess can be contained. Again, it can be heated to a nominal 55 degrees to keep it above freezing. This is one of the areas that it was nice to be able to visit a couple of those ODOT facilities, and that picture did come from the second ODOT facility that we visited. The first one had been designed with a catwalk down both sides, built in, that they could use. The idea was to wash from the top. They found that it was too far away to be effective, so they were using these rolling ladders. So by the second ODOT facility that was built, they non-performed the catwalk. They went straight with the rolling ladders, which is what we would propose to do. Again, it's nice to learn from their experiences. So not a fully automated, it's still a hand wash. There would be a undercarriage wash that could be actuated. You can see that kind of the two posts there in the middle, that's what that is. So again, that's the truck wash space. On the left side of the site would be our salt barn. Again, the footprint will be the same. Storage capacity will be much larger. So on the left is our existing salt barn. Wooden structure, again, built in the 1980s, holds 4,000 tons of salt. We are fortunate every now and then to have some mild winters, but on what I would call a normal snowy winter, we'll go through about 5,500 to 6,000 tons of salt. So when our salt barn gets to about half capacity, we will order a refill. Obviously, you have to wait until then, so we have somewhere to put it. Occasionally, every few years, we get to that halfway point, we order a refill, and then it snows before we're able to get that refill in. So the picture on the right was from 2021, I believe. That is just enough salt left to do one more round. Fortunately, it had stopped snowing by then, and our resupply came, it was either later that day or the next. So we were okay. We've never run out of salt, but that is definitely an uneasy feeling. New facility, again, while having the same footprint, it's made of reinforced concrete versus wood, has a taller arched roof, so we'll be able to hold more capacity, should be able to hold closer to 6,000 tons. So that should be enough to get us through a full winter, or after 2,000 tons, we order a resupply. We still have 4,000 in reserve, so we should be okay. On the left side of this facility, you can see they have brine storage, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. At the time that we took this tour and started these plans, we were exploring some options for our liquids. We make our own brine with some equipment that our crews put together. We were also exploring some commercial products. We had a commercial product that we used. We were having trouble with the supplier. We have since this time switched and found another commercial product that we like. Very reliable vendor so far. So we will probably non-perform that, although it's still included in the package, but we'll talk about that in a minute. On the right-hand side, you can see, and again, it's beyond the picture because I wasn't thinking presentation at the time, but the cover extends beyond the salt area. There are concrete bins separated like you might see at a landscape yard, where we would be able to store materials like topsoil, gravel, sand, that kind of thing. They'll be separated, they'll be covered, they'll stay dry. So that's the idea for that space. Covered storage. This is something we really don't have much of at the moment, and those would be two buildings, just covered, not heated, on the south side of the site. So this is the picture on the left. You can see kind of the dark building without the roof. That used to be where we would store straw, concrete panels, some of those kind of materials you just like to keep out of the weather, but don't necessarily need to be climate controlled. In the center of that picture, you see our mowers, tractors, chipper truck. This is equipment that is obviously out on the road most of the year, but through the winter, it would be really nice to be able to park that somewhere covered. On the right-hand side of that left picture, you can see some of our signposts, and then you can see kind of the side of that, what I call the single-car garage kind of building. So all that kind of material is what we envision storing undercover. On the right-hand side, we're not real proud of those buildings. They've showed up over the years, but needed a place to have lockable storage for some specialty tools, hand tools, equipment like that, cones, some small things that need to be kind of covered, locked away. So that's, yes, I don't really know what else to say about that. Finally, guardrail. This is something that sits outside. You can see behind the municipal court. Guardrail obviously lives outside. It can stay outside. One of the challenges that we have this time of year, if it rains and then freezes and we need to make a repair to a piece of guardrail, those pieces are frozen together. So I think we found a creative solution we'll talk about here in a minute without a big elaborate expense. Obviously, all of that doesn't need to be inside of a building, but it would be nice if it were covered, shielded from the weather. So here's the proposed. There would be 2 of these buildings. On the left is the elevation view. On the right is from a picture from one of the ODOT facilities that we visited. The ODOT facility, the fabric structure, goes from the ground all the way up into the ground on the other side. Talking to them, one of the things that they learned is they needed to install guardrail on the inside so they didn't back into the fabric. And there were signs reminding employees not to lean things against the fabric. So they weren't able to fully utilize the square footage that they had because they had to come inside a little bit. So what we have proposed, very similar building, but with concrete walls for the first 5 feet. So we can fully utilize that space. We can stack shelves against the walls, park equipment against the walls. And then on the outside, you'll see on the elevation view on the left, there's a little bit of an overhang. So back to the guardrail, we'll have several hundred feet of concrete that we can stack the guardrail against. It'll be on the north side of the building, so it'll be shielded a little bit from the weather. Also have that little bit of an awning over top just to protect it. So again, not a big expense, but it solves the problem that we've run into. So. Getting outside of the engineer space, if you have questions here, I will defer to Wade, but I've been involved enough to give, I think, an overview. The fueling station would be located in the center of the site. Obviously, would be accessible by the same county employees that access the fueling station today. Would be inside of a gated area, though, that could be secured if necessary. Located within view of the fleet office as it is today. Again, for convenience, we tried to think through the flow of the site, not just from day-to-day basis, but for things like fuel deliveries, salt deliveries, trash service. So a lot of thought went into the layout of the whole site overall. So again, on the picture on the right side is our existing fueling station, above ground tanks. There's one for diesel, one for unleaded, but it's single loaded, single side, and a single line. So sometimes, especially certain times of day, that line can get pretty long as you wait to get through to get fueled. On the left-hand side is the kind of the proposed elevation view. Would be still one diesel, one unleaded, but they would be separate islands, and they would be double-sided. So they have the opportunity then to fuel more efficiently multiple vehicles at a time. You'll see on the left elevation view, there's a proposed canopy. The canopy will be treated as an alternate bid, which again we'll talk about in a minute. So I know if we were to move forward with the canopy, you and I and the sheriff's office would probably have a lot of very happy employees. Also would help protect some of that equipment that's under there. So
I was going to ask you if you were going to have it covered this time.
that's the proposal. Fleet maintenance garage, again, as it's shown here, pretty much the exact same footprint as what exists today. So you can see this is the existing building. There are 6 garage bays. On the right-hand side, office space, parts storage, bathroom, those types of things. And as it's proposed, again, very similar, 6 bays. On the right-hand side, office space, break room, bathroom, part storage. There is an alternate bid item here as well to remove 2 of those bays, so we could proceed with a 4-bay building versus a 6. That's why those 2 are grayed out. So that will be an option. That'll be something we get to decide at a future date. So cost estimate. Right now, as it stands, the facility as designed, estimated cost $18.56 million. A reminder, this is a 7-acre campus with 5 buildings and a fueling station. Original estimate, I think, from our first round came back closer to 22.5. So we all went back to the drawing board with Garmin Miller, our architect. They came up with some good solutions. I think we went through every building and we made some adjustments. The biggest adjustment came on the site plan. Originally, we had things spread out a little more elbow room. However, when you start to figure in excavation, asphalt, gravel, storm, all extending the utilities, that was a big expense. So that was one of the biggest savings that we were able to make was in shrinking the campus down, but it's still trying to keep in mind the efficiency of flow, the ability to expand in the future if we needed to. So that's where we ended up at that 18.5. I mentioned there were 4 alternates that will be bid. So in an effort to identify possible savings beyond that, highway operations, as I mentioned, we could deduct one bay the way it's designed. It has an estimated savings of around $400,000. I would put 4 parking spaces out. But again, significant savings. Salt barn alternate, I already talked a little bit about the brine system. We had included it because at the time we were exploring options. We wanted to know what the price might be. I think unless it comes back really cheap, we're probably ready to move on from that, but it's still in the plan. So it'll still be bid. There'll be a line item for that. Fleet maintenance, again, opportunity to deduct 2 bays to go to 4 from 6. And then the fueling station, the overhead canopy. So total, if all those deductions were made, we're looking at about $17.5 million. We will have the opportunity, the way this is set up, after the bids are opened, we'll have actual dollar amounts. We'll come back here. We'll be able to talk about which one of those line items we would like to keep them all, remove them all, but we'll have a discussion with real numbers. So next steps, February 8th, plan to be back with an agenda item asking the board to authorize the advertisement of bids. If that is approved at that date, then we would begin advertising on the 16th. March 2nd would be a mandatory pre-bid meeting with the bids opening on April 6th. Depending on how that goes, hope to award a contract in late spring. Construction would begin early summer. The idea that it would be completed by the end of next summer. But we wanted to come here today. This is a big project. If you have questions, if there's things that we need to look at to bring back before that February 8th, we have time to do so. So be happy to entertain any questions.
I would say for anyone that goes over and pumps fuel in the rain, they would love to see that one item stay.
Becca, how do you feel about that?
I agree.
Jeremy, this is phase 1 of the engineers complex. Do you just want to talk about for a second, just give a quick overview of what phase 2 looks like?
Greg can correct me if I'm wrong, but phase 1 includes the piece that we just talked about. Phase 2 would then be the demo of those buildings on the Filager campus to clean that area up. And potentially also then construct a new building for facilities, CTC, I believe, and county engineer's office space, because I guess there may be some other plans for use of our existing space. So that would be the next phases if those were to progress.
Is there any rough order of magnitude of all of that put together? This portion is 18 million. The demolition is there?
Right around 300,000 for everything, plus site improvements, plus environmental.
Okay, would be the demolition. And then for the administration building and the CTC building, is that something in round numbers?
Yeah, there's 2 different areas. In actuality, CTC would be another phase, but included. There are some grant applications that are presently going on. Hopefully there's going to be at least funding for that or very close to being funded. And then can't doing that, but we're looking at, as far as the administrative building for the engineers, roughly about 4.5 million. And then our building is not even a quarter of the size, so you're looking at another $1.5 million.
So if we look at the whole project scheme, we're somewhere around
Right around
$30 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's over a 3-year period.
And that's not to stun anybody. It's just that, where you are over on the other campus is obviously slated for people coming out of that and combining into the juvenile new court expansion. So all that fits together. So just want to put it out there that what we're talking about here is about $30 million project all told.
And after the cleanup, I mean, the ideal is to, I don't know if you've ever been out there to see the volunteers. I feel like I need to stand up like here. To see the volunteers walking the dogs and all. I mean, we want it to be a true green space. We want it to look pretty, be nice, functional, and, you know, no disrespect, but get rid of the junk that the engineer and fleet and even our building, you know, it's a little overdue.
Well, those kind of things make their way to a spot where they can be kind of left off. That's just every county has one. Every project site has one. Jeremy, just a couple of questions about that. One of the things I noticed is that you're going to pull a lot of trucks inside, which you don't really have the capability of right now. Have they looked really, really close? I know you're going to provide some type of minimal heat, but how many trucks did you say you had?
26 dump trucks.
Are all 26 dump trucks going to fit in there?
Yes.
And have they taken a look at the fire load on that? If all of those are loaded with fuel and you put them inside a building? I mean, has there been fire protection requirements included for that?
Yes. So exhaust that I mentioned, fire protection, all of those things are things that Garmin-Miller put into the package. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I just saw that as the fire load and salt storage. You feel like you'll have enough salt storage area that keeps it from freezing, having the trucks inside. You don't have to do all that extra work to try to pound that frozen salt out of those nice dump trucks.
Yes.
And then those fabric storage facilities, those are typical. There's 5 or 6 manufacturers that make those. I'll use one particular trade name because I'm familiar with it. It's called Rub Structure. And that's spelled RUBB. They're one of the leaders in the industry when it comes to that. Those fabric structures have a life expectancy.
They do.
And typically that life expectancy is around 25 years. And then you end up restringing them with fabric.
Right.
And so I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. You've taken a look at it. You know what the limitations of that are. Obviously, the limitations are you can't run into one of those structural members and you have to have a way to hold them down.
Right.
As far as uplift design.
Sure.
So.
And again, they have concrete bases as designed. We know there's a life expectancy of 20, 25 years. Metal barns, roofs, same thing. Shingle roofs, same thing. The facilities that we've had have been re-roofed a few times. So smaller upfront costs, obviously trade-offs. But we thought that this might be the best path forward to just get this project moving.
And rub structures are turned into office buildings in a lot of locations. They put wood floors in them and everything. I mean, they're really nice structures. So, okay. And I'm with Bonnie. Put a canopy up. Oh, and do you have provisions in that maintenance area to actually lift a truck?
Yes.
You're going to put a big truck lift in?
Yes.
So you can.
So there'll be one side will have a permanent mounted truck lift. The other side would have portable lifts that lift from the tire up. So we can move them out of the way if we needed to, move them back in, utilize that space for lifts. Yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy.
Maybe not in your scope, but maybe Lyle in yours. Talk to me about the floodplain down here and what we've looked into possibly. Of course you don't. I'm kidding you. That was smart. Moving on over. I'm just talking about leakage of salt and all that kind of stuff. And
Right. So Garmin-Miller with their package, obviously, and Wade could probably speak more about how they reclaim the water and the treatment, but there are drains inside of the buildings. That water gets captured. I don't know what happens to it. But yes, that's something that they considered.
okay.
Yes.
Jeremy, just one more question. It's just washing trucks.
Yes.
I don't have any experience washing dump trucks, but I got a little experience washing school buses. And one of the things that we ran into school bus was chromium. When you run them through a wash, the water that hits the ground can have a chromium contaminant in it because trucks have that kind of accessories on them.
Right.
And have they made any provisions for that as far as treatment of that captured water before it's actually released into the sewer?
Yes, that is all. Again, I don't know specifically how that works, but that is something that we spoke to Garmin-Miller specifically about. And again, they've designed some of these facilities.
I was going to say they've done enough
Yep.
of them that they know.
Yes, these plans really are very, very close to some of those ODOT. It's been scaled accordingly. Most of the ODOT facilities, because they have multiples per county, they handle 15 to 20 people at each facility. We have 40 here, so the scale is a little different, but if you were to look through some of those ODOT plans, very similar to what we were proposing.
One of the things they treat that water with is electrolysis. And electrolysis is very effective at doing that, but it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, public participation. Don't see anyone in the audience. Item E is consent agenda. Board, you've had this in time to review. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call, please, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. Before we move on, item 8 on the consent agenda, personnel actions. I would like to recognize the first person on that list. Watch your face turn red, everyone. Rebecca, who is doing the minutes today, is taking a new position. She's going to be our assistant clerk. And I'm sure Gail is going to welcome her with open arms. So, Mike, you want to do your duty? And I would like to have a picture with Rebecca so that we can officially congratulate her on her new position.
We'll do it all as your team. Sure. Get all of them.
Yeah.
Stand up there.
We'll stand up here.
How about that?
Come on up. Greg, we omitted you from the
Put him in the
picture. I'm
middle.
sorry.
No, no. You have to go in front. You're the star.
Oh, you get up with her. Oh, we're the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in.
We actually dressed alike. And this was- Yes,
We're going to join you, so you're not all by your little selves.
we are.
Oh. Oh.
Now they get 3.
Oh. Maybe.
There you go.
Congratulations, Becca.
When is your official day?
February 6th.
Can't come soon
February
enough, right?
24th.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to non-consent agenda, which is on page 4.
Number 9.
Number 9, it is a recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners adopt resolution number 013-23, resolving to approve payment to vendors in the total amount $4,193,943.09, as outlined in the BCC approval invoice report for checks dated January 25th, 2023. BCC directed prepaid invoice reports and/or the procurement card transaction report as presented by the county auditor on January 23rd, 2023, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants pursuant to section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
And let's just point out, about $1.5 million of that is Barrett Paving. And then I think around $850,000 was the Newtonsville. Lyle, you spent all of that?
Probably,
Okay. So just to give some insight to why it was that much. Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. Item number 10. Mr. Maloney, you doing that one?
I do. I had number 11 on mine, but
Uh-oh.
the reason why I sat there. So it is the recommendation to acknowledge the electronic submittal of a grant application on or about January 9th, 2023 for funding through the State of Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services relative to the Ohio Drug Law Enforcement Grant Program for the project entitled Clermont County Drug Unit, to be implemented by the county sheriff, if awarded, in the amount of $165,390.36, with a local cash match required in the amount of $55,130.11 for a total project budget amount of $220,520.47 for the period of 7/1/23 through 6/30/24, and to authorize Bonnie J. Batchelor as President of the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, to act as the sub-grantee pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions in the grant.
Okay, Jim, that was number 11. We'll have to go back and pick up number 10. But board, you've heard the reading of number 11. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we had you down for reading number 10. So who's supposed to do that one, Greg? Do you know?
It's for a software package.
Well, that's for the courts. I'm not sure, but I can handle it because I'm
Okay.
familiar with it. So I'll just take it. How about that? It's recommendation authorized. Item number 10, recommendation authorized by Dave Batchelor, President of Board of County Commissioners, to execute a software maintenance agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont, Ohio, and Courtview Justice Solutions Incorporated, doing business as Equivant, located in Canton, Ohio, for the provision of software maintenance services for the Clerk of Common Pleas Court, the Clerk of Municipal Court, and the Common Pleas Adult Probation Department, and finally the Court of Common Pleas Division of Probate and Juvenile Courts, for a total amount not to exceed $281,748.34.
Okay, board, we've had the reading of item number 10. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. Suki, you doing 12?
Item 12. Good morning, Board. Item 12 is a recommendation to authorize Tom Eigel, County Administrator, to execute the joint agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, the Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton County, and the City of Loveland. This is relative to the construction and maintenance of improvements to the Loveland Road Bridge, sidewalk repairs. It's a Hamilton County project number 502015. The bridge is actually located in the City of Loveland, and it will establish the responsibilities for the project administration and funding commitments of the respective parties, which also confirms the Clermont County $225,000 funding commitment that the board authorized on November 22nd of last year.
Thank you. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 12. Do I have a motion to approve?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? I would just like to say, being invited up to meet with the mayor one day and seeing the pictures of what that walkway looked like before the
Where they
temporary,
did- Right.
that was dangerous.
is.
And I personally want to see the Hamilton County residents cross that bridge and come to Clermont County and spend their money. So I'm glad we're doing this.
And I'd also invite Warren County also, since we touch all three counties. And during the parade, people couldn't even take their children in strollers across the sidewalk because it was so torn up. So they were in the street actually in front of floats, and it was one of the parades became very dangerous. So
And with Loveland
Right.
being close to the trail and to the waterway, you know, there are a lot of people, health conscience is, you know, high on the list out there. And a lot of people walk and bike and, you know, they've got to have safe access coming across that bridge.
Limited parking. You've got people
Yep.
parking on both sides. Just
Going to all of the wonderful restaurants.
Yep.
So, thank you.
And Loveland is a Clermont County city, you know, so.
That's why I said I'd like to see them come and spend their money here. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Corcoran.
yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Item 13 is a recommendation to award the bid for the contract for services to provide lawn mowing and lawn maintenance. And this will be for the Clermont County Public Water Course and Road Drainage Basin properties. This is pursuant to the specifications, and it will go to Caliber Ground Maintenance out of Bethel, Ohio. They were the lowest and best bid received on December 8th in an amount of $5,545 for a 2-year term with an option to renew for an additional 1 year, and to also execute the contract for services in compliance with that and the award of bid, obviously contingent upon a purchase order.
Thank you. Board, you've had the reading of item number 13. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. Thank you, Suki. Hi, Lyle.
Hello, good morning. Item 14 is a recommendation to execute the contract for the furnishing and delivery of a chemical for the Clermont County Waterworks System, as the lowest and best bids were received on October 13th, 2022, and subsequently awarded on December 5th, 2022, at the cost and timeframe outlined below, in an agreement with the terms, conditions, and award of bid, and conditioned upon the release of the necessary purchase order. So again, the bids were awarded, and we could not execute the contract with this company because at that time, because their BWC certificate wasn't correct. So they got that revised. So now we're awarding, or actually executing the contract, and it's with Chemtrade Chemicals out of Parsippany, New Jersey, for aluminum sulfate.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 14. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes, thank you, Lionel.
Thank you.
Morning, Pam.
Pam Havercost, Clermont County Emergency Management Agency Director. Item number 15 is a recommendation to authorize myself, Pam Havercost, the Director of the Clermont County Emergency Management Agency, to submit the 2023 to 2024 grant application for the Chemical Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know funds through the Ohio State Emergency Response Commission, also known as the CERC, located in Columbus, Ohio, for the purpose of developing, preparing, training, exercising, and reviewing and or revising the Clermont County Chemical Emergency Planning and Preparedness Plan with implementation and administration of the Emergency Planning and Right to Know Act in the amount of $35,602 for the operation of the local emergency planning committee, with no local match required, effective for the period of July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2024.
Thank you, Pam. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Hi, Jennifer.
I have a recommendation to authorize Bonnie J. Batchelor, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute an additional AMS Merrick location addendum for the Clermont County Park District with Automated Merchant Systems Incorporated in Lake Mary, Florida, and Merrick Bank Corporation in Woodbury, New York, ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on December 18th, 2019, for processing payments by financial transaction device effective upon execution pursuant to the terms, conditions, and in compliance with sections 301.28 and 307.862 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Thank you. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 16. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion as read.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 17.
Morning.
Good morning.
Recommendation to adopt a revised table of organization for the Information Systems Department as outlined below in an Exhibit A, effective January 16th, 2023, and to authorize the update of the appropriate internet links and appendices accordingly. This is to abolish the ISD program administrator position, to add a administrative support technician, and then to reclassify the administrative support coordinator to a contract manager.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 17. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes, thank you. We have a traffic jam on that side, don't we?
I think it's just because of my size. I've got a little bit overhang here.
Oh, wait.
I
Still
took-
awake after last night, Wade? That's what we wanted.
Hey, we were here. I was upset that we didn't have any chili over at the engineer's place. I mean, normally we can get something to eat, but
Really? And
yeah, they didn't even cook.
well, there goes their sidewalks.
Another
Did I
one.
just say that?
Another one.
You know, I would just say after, 30 years of playing ball together, nothing's changed.
I drank a lot more beer back then. I will admit that. I'm not saying you did. And you
I'm
were-
just saying, there was a concession there.
Well, we had to spend the tokens. They were free, right? Sorry about that. Number 18 is a recommendation to authorize Bonnie J. Batchelor, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute change order number 6 in the contract with Mark Spalding Construction out of Florence, Kentucky, for construction of the Juvenile Court Expansion Renovation Project, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on 1/26/22 and subsequently amended on 3/9, 6/29, 8/10, 11/2, and 12/14/2022, for a net increase in the amount of $28,295.16 for changes relative to overframing for roofing, time extension, schedule delays, framing modifications, expansion of slope wall, additional roof details, transaction window header, and parking lot adjustments for a total adjusted contract price in the amount of $8,364,710.81 and an increase of contract time by 94 workdays. As fully described in the attached change order in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth within the contract for juvenile court expansion and renovation.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 18. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. Thank you, Wade.
Wade, before you leave,
Yes.
I would just ask one question.
I don't play softball.
Is Judge Burke satisfied with the path forward when it comes to the parking lot that she has been concerned with
I
before?
believe so, but
Okay.
every day presents a different challenge. The other day, the challenge was that the storm drains that were put in, which was scheduled, they were supposed to be in, they were about 2 hours delayed. She had people there that couldn't get out to get lunch, so that was a concern. I understood that concern. We told her that we would always keep a path open. So instead of closing that, if we have any work that has to be done, we'll keep half and half open. So they finished the storm drain that day. They re-gravelled everything yesterday, and they poured the first half of the sidewalk. Now they're working on the second half of the sidewalk. So by Friday, Monday, people will be able to, instead of walking on gravel, they'll be able to go and get on the sidewalk and go into the building. That's not to say there's not going to be construction traffic from time to time, but we want it to be limited. And I get so irritated when I go up there, when I find a lull coming back and dragging everything over. I mean, I feel like yanking people out of the piece of equipment because they know not to do it. They are. There's no doubt about it. So in theory, the only thing that has to be done back there now and is the connector roof is being installed from the opposite side, and then they have the underground storms in the parking lot.
And-
Hopefully, there's no big equipment on there.
And Wade and Chris were very kind to go with Mr. Igel and myself to meet with the judge yesterday, and we walked it, the whole thing, watched what they were doing, making sure that that large equipment gets moved so
Move it
we
out of
can
there.
grill it out, get it all done again and make sure that it's all straight for everyone. But it was also the concern, I think, of the court system of the clients coming in.
Sure.
Also, they were appearing for hearings with small children. You're dealing with the domestic and juvenile court area. And everybody was very satisfied, I think, yesterday. It's going to continue just to be in progress till we get this completed.
And we have, the asphalt plants will begin to open up mid-March. We're hoping earlier. We're trying to get that thing sealed up and put to a normal capacity as soon as we can. So we'll keep on it. I know it's January. I know we're going to have some inclement weather still. And we did dodge a bullet last night, though. We're happy about that. We don't mind coming in if we don't have to. Be is okay now, but there could be some other issues. But we try to communicate every day with what the schedule is going to be, so they're aware of it.
And just keep in mind, there are thousands of kids in Clermont County that weren't satisfied with the outcome of the weather.
They already closed. What was the school? Batavia was the only one that left open, I think. I think it was Batavia. It was the only school that stayed open. Everybody else was happy. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item number G is additions to the agenda, and I see we have 2 add-ons.
Correct. We have two. If you'd like to take them one at a time, we can do that, or.
Can we go ahead and vote to put them both on, and then we'll take them one at a time? Can I have a motion to add these 2 add-ons then to the agenda?
Do you want me to read them first?
Please?
You want to read them?
Sure.
The first one is an add-on for the county sheriff, an extension of an extension and amendment of health services agreement with Southern Health Partners. And the second one is an executive session add-on to consider the employment or compensation of a public employee.
Okay. A motion to add these to the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. Do the county sheriff first. You going to read that one? Oh,
There you go.
Followers here.
Recommendation R, Stephen Leahy, County Sheriff, in concurrence with Tom J. Eigel, County Commissioner, to execute and extend the amendment of the health service agreement with Southern Health Partners, Chattanooga, Tennessee, previously ratified by the Board of Commissioners on April 15, 2020, amended and renewed on January 6 of 2021, amended and renewed on January 12th of 2002 for the provision of inmate health service at the Clermont County Jail. Effective February the 1st, 2023 through midnight of April 1st, 2023, upon the execution of the new agreement for inmate health services executed by the party to this agreement, whichever event comes first, with all other terms, conditions of the original agreement and amendment thereto remain in full effect.
I think it was supposed to be January 1st, 2023 instead of February, right?
Believe
23.
that
That's what we have.
I don't have that exact answer. I don't have the full documentation.
On the,
Do you have February?
I have February 1st, 2023. That's when it was supposed to expire
Okay.
Okay,
or
Okay.
start.
Right.
so we'll change our motion.
Okay,
Yes,
just wanted
if
to
you
make,
read it correctly.
Okay.
just wanted to make sure.
All right.
Do I have a motion? with
I'll
that?
make the motion with the correction of the
Hold on,
date.
before you do that,
I won't make the motion.
I think we've got a clarification.
Yes, I'm sorry. The current contract expires January 31.
So it is,
So February 1st is the date the extension will start.
Okay,
okay.
It's just what we have has a different date.
Okay, so then I will make the motion as read, which include the date February 1st of 2023 through midnight on April the 1st of 2023. So correct. All right.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes, thank you.
You.
It was our confusion, not yours. Okay, and the other add-on is item H on the agenda. And it reads executive session pursuant to section 121.22 G1 and G3 of the Ohio Revised Code to 1, consider the employment or compensation of a public employee, and number 2, confer with the prosecuting attorney concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
I was second that.
Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes, we will return after executive session. We have returned from executive session. No decisions or actions were taken. Again, let me state why we went into executive session. It was pursuant to section 121.22 G1 and G3 of the Ohio Revised Code to 1, consider the employment or compensation of a public employee, and 2, to confer with the prosecuting attorney concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. So at this time, Mr. Bickford, we have another add-on.
Yes, ma'am. We have an add-on joint application with the prosecuting attorney for employment of outside legal counsel to advise the board.
And I have a motion to put this on the agenda.
Make the motion to edit.
Second.
Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
This is recommendation to authorize Bonnie Batchelor, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute a joint application for employment of outside legal counsel with the Clermont County Prosecuting Attorney to the Clermont County Court of Common Pleas for the employment of the legal counsel pursuant to and compliance with Revised Code Section 305.14 to advise the board as it relates to ORC Sections 325.17 and 1901.31.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I will second.
Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. Thank you. This time we'll move on to county staff elected official discussion.
I'd like to just briefly touch on broadband again. As you remember last week, we talked about it. We've gotten some excellent responses. We're up close to 1,000 responses. And
Good.
some of the data is starting to show that we're actually getting rural responses. And it's kind of like we figured. There's not much internet out there, so that's going to help us. But what we've also found out, interestingly enough, is areas that are supposedly covered by Spectrum or Alta Fiber are not. So this is going to be very valuable for us to make sure that we cover everybody. As we know, the eastern side of the county is not well covered, and that's certainly been known, despite what the FCC maps say. So we are challenging those. But there are pockets in, say, Union Township, Miami Township, that don't have coverage that this hopefully will address as well. So just encourage people to please take that survey. It's open for another couple of days. And then we'll be preparing a report from our consultants, as well as some type of preliminary design, how to do that middle mile that we talked about. We should see that by mid-March.
Thank you, Greg. Anything? There?
None.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. Okay, moving on to item J, member comments. Anything?
Just the Bill Brewer Gala.
It was
You know,
great, wasn't
It was. We're coming up on that time here in February. You know, that's always, a solemn occasion, when it comes to that. But it was so great to see so many people, participate in that gala and be so committed to, Bill's family and continuing. We've said many times he'll always be one of our Clermont County deputies. So honored to be able to go to that. And I know you were too. And we look forward to that every year, even though there's a sadness that goes with that. There's a
is.
real pride that goes
But
with it too.
But the cause, what they use that money for is just, Jamie does a good job with that organization.
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
Thank you. I did like the one picture though that the lady took from the balcony.
It was neat.
Your hand, the one lady that was
Is
in front of you,
me.
she had her hand right in front of his face. It was a nice picture of Carla
It
though.
was. Understood.
Okay, so at this time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes. We will see you next week.